I was totally blown away. Like I was hooked on just this first one.
Welcome to the first episode of our podcast, The Robots Are Coming. It's the year 2022, and machine learning capabilities are at the point where anyone with an email can use them. In this episode, we're testing out a few of these services that allow you to enter some words or phrases and have the AI system create an image for you. You might have seen headlines about this technology, but how well do they perform against use cases outside of a lab or demo environment, where you're throwing some curveballs at them and seeing how well they hold up? More importantly, we'll talk about how you could use them for your work. This is the first episode of our podcast. Let us know in the comments if you enjoyed the episode and if you'd like more shows like this. Mike, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about text to image AI systems. What are they? Why are they here? And what are they coming for? What do they want? What are their motivations? And when are they going to take over the world?
And there's already some that are here, right? So there's a few that we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about 3 specifically that Mike has tried out. And then we're going to show you the prompts that we have given them and the results that we got from them.
Along the way, we'll talk a little bit about the experience of using these, anything that you need to know to get started, and some practical applications that you might be able to use these as a designer or otherwise.
Nice. All right. Should we get started?
Okay. Well, but before I share my screen, what we're going to show is the output of 3 different text-to-image AI systems. The ones that I tested for this demo are NightCafe, Midjourney, and Dall-E 2. They all basically work the same way from an end user perspective, and I am not a data scientist, so I won't go into the ins and outs of how the models work, because frankly, I have no idea. But what I can tell you is what it's like to use them, and what my sort of trials and tribulations were like playing with some of these. So when I share my screen, I'll walk you through the output of 3. I tried to start off with a little bit something that might throw the ML for a loop a little. I am from New York, so I love the 2 mascots of New York City, pigeons and rats, and wanted to give the prompt to all 3 of these engines just the term pigeon rat, and see would it combine them into like a pigeon rat hybrid animal, or would it somehow take that prompt and give me something unexpected. But my expectation was that it would take pigeon rat and create some kind of pigeon rat hybrid. So we'll see what these different AI algorithms ended up doing. So let me share my screen here. And you can see again, the prompt was pigeon rat. So our first AI ML algorithm that we'll do a reveal of is NightCafe. This one, all 3 of these, I should say, are freemium. So they're free to try. And then you can chuck a bunch of prompts at it. And it'll gate you after you play with several of these. So should we reveal the first one?
Yeah, totally. So like all you did was just type pigeon rat into the text prompt, and then the AI system spit out an interpretation.
Exactly. Pigeon rat and then go. And the fun thing about these is like when you give the prompt to the machine, it kind of like shows you its thinking in real time. So it's almost like if you've ever used video processors or like video editing and 3D modeling, there's a process called rendering where like you hit the render button and then you sort of watch the image come to life. These kind of work in a very similar way. So you just type in pigeon rat, hit go, and then you sort of watch the machine kind of compile the image together. So all of these are making a brand new drawing from scratch. It's not like a kind of collage system. It's making a new image each time.
Nice. So it's not just doing a Google search in the back.
As far as I know, it's actually drawing a new image, but who knows? Maybe it's actually just pulling from Google's data bank. I don't think it is. But here we go. Let's check out what NightCafe did with Pigeon Rat. And here we go. This one, I don't know. What do you think?
I can see parts of pigeon and I can see parts of like a Mickey Mouse ear on top of the pigeon. But
Yeah, like it tried to get it here, and I don't know what it did with its like beak, but it's like it started with a rat tail, and you can kind of see like maybe there's a rat tail here. I don't know.
what's the pigeon's? Is it on a phone? Like, can you zoom in a little bit more? Because it just seems
Yeah,
like it's.
I think so. It's really hard to tell, and why it decided to put that there when that had nothing to do with the prompt pigeon rat is beyond me.
Yeah, it's so like I think there's like so many hallmarks of like current generation of like AI images, which is just like a lot of like blurriness and blended things that tell you that some it's like it just like looks a little bit like a bad Photoshop.
Yeah, it's got a bit of this kind of like painterly kind of digital arty cyberpunk thing going on. But yeah, again, that was all just like, oh, and actually, now that you mention it, Night Cafe is a little bit different than the other two in that there are these kind of themes that you can pick to kind of give an aesthetic to the output. And I think cyberpunk is actually one of the choices. I don't think that that's the one that I picked. I can't remember, to be honest, but that was one differentiator of this one versus the other two.
So, how long did it take the system to generate this after you entered the prompt?
It's remarkably quick. I think for all of these, it's pretty similar, which is like a matter of minutes or less. It's, I think, about somewhere between 30 seconds and a minute.
Nice. I mean, 30 seconds to generate blurriness.
Yeah, right. 30 seconds to wait for, an image that may or may not come back to what you wanted.
Yeah.
Very, very kind of slot machiney mechanic going on here.
Yeah. I think there's another part to this, right? Which is like, I know this doesn't seem that impressive at the moment, but I think there's also a part to recognize that it understands pigeon and rat, and it's attempting to do something with those two things, right? So like
Totally.
At least it gets like the first half of the prompt, so it gets credit for that because it understands what you're asking it to do. But then the execution, it might be the part that's lacking here.
Yeah, and here's where I think like, not to give any spoilers to the reveal of the other two, but the prompt pigeon rat can be interpreted in so many ways. Like, did I intend for it to combine them into a hybrid animal or like draw them separately? Really interesting to see how each of these sort of took that not very concrete and specific prompt and run with it.
Yep, totally. Can we look at the second one?
Let's do it. Okay, so the second one is Midjourney. And right away you will notice that, here, let me show both in comparison here. The output of Midjourney is nicer right off the bat because it gives you 4 different permutations of the prompt. So you get more to choose from in the output. So without further ado, here we are. What do you think?
I actually think these are, they feel like they're more finished products. And like, let's say if you were asking the robot for an assignment, you gave the robot an assignment and Night Cafe turned that in versus Midjourney turned these pictures in, you'd be like, Midjourney, you actually tried. Night Cafe, do you need more time to finish?
I love that. Yes, totally. I was blown away when I got this back. I think this is the first one I used of any of these, and this is the first prompt that I gave it. It also tells you a little bit something about me, I suppose, but I was totally blown away. Like, I was hooked on just this first one. I was so impressed, especially with like this one up here in the top right is just adorable in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It like got the rat tail and like the rat ears on a pigeon. It was exactly what I had in my mind when I was like a pigeon rat hybrid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And like each one of them, there's also like, they're different enough, right? I think maybe, I wonder if the system probably generates like a whole bunch of them and then like it picks these somehow, because each of them, they're also have a different feel to them. It's not as if there are 4 slight variations on the same output, right? So I'm assuming like the system's probably like generating like way more than 4 and then picking out like a range of output to return to you.
Yeah, that's a good point because they could have all just been variations of like this one here. That's like a bust kind of, which I think is also amazing that it has kind of like little pigeon feathers here, like a little crest. But yeah, it could just be like 4 riffs on this theme. But yeah, it's like we'll do one bust, we'll do one like full body shot, we'll do, like a portrait here of this sort of like this one. I think it's just kind of cute because it looks like a failed laboratory experiment where like I don't know if it like took the ears and like tried to make eyes out of them or something, but I kind of feel sorry for this one, but it's very cute.
Yeah. I think there's another element, like I'm looking at the one on the bottom left there, and if you take away the ears, you can see like, oh, it looks like a bird, like a dove, right? And if you add the ears back, like that's what makes it a little bit more bat-like. And this makes me think about how when people have kids, they say that kids make them like see the world in a different way. And I feel like that's what this output does, which is like it's recontextualizing something and then it's giving you back like the essence of these things. And it's like, oh, I recognize like why these images follow the prompt of like pigeon rat. Like I look at actually my favorite one's on the top left, because even though there isn't a lot that makes it look like a pigeon, I think it's like the bottom right side of it where like the tail is that makes it look like a rat.
Yeah,
right? Like the shape of it, it's more rat-like than pigeon-like.
Totally. And this one's the only one that doesn't have, oh no, I guess this one doesn't have wings either, but it's got kind of this sort of hint of feathers on both of them. Yeah, totally. Amazing. So shall we move on to the third and final variation?
Yeah. Is it going to be better or way worse? Let's see.
I'm not gonna give any hints. We'll see. So this is the third one, which is Dall-E 2. It has a similar approach. I will say this without spoiling it, that you get 4 variations of the theme, just like Midjourney. So you have more to select from in the output. But drum roll, boom. This one, I got to say, I was disappointed.
Yeah, it's probably like the most. Yeah, it's the most literal. It's just like you got half the assignment right.
Yeah, I mean, to its credit, amazed at the photorealism of the output. It's just there's no rat here. So, I mean, to your point about like receiving a brief and, delivering an assignment, it's not what the instructor asked for.
Yeah, it's interesting because again, like now looking at these two side by side, I'm also seeing like a lot of variation in the angles and perspectives, and like it's also interesting that they're all flying. There's no static pigeon hanging out. It's like mid-flight pigeons.
Very, very active pigeons.
Yeah. So what do you think out of all of these? Like what did you do after you got these results?
So these were just for fun, just to sort of play around and see what you get when you explore tools like this. So I think it opened up just a whole bunch of potential practical applications. I mean, I think maybe less so with NightCafe because this one was the least, I think, it felt the least usable of all of these. It's got kind of a little bit of a sloppy-ish kind of output. Dall-E 2 with other prompts did extremely well. And both it and Midjourney give you lots to choose from and feel like a little bit the output is more refined.
Does the interface give you any guidance on like does it guide you on how to guide the AI? Does it give you like examples or like best practices of things to include or exclude when you're giving them prompts?
I know that some of them do. I can't remember which one does it the best. I think it was Dall-E 2. As you're sort of waiting for the output, it shows you inspiration and what prompt was used to generate the sample output. And it gives you some tidbits of wisdom, like make sure that your prompt is very concrete. The more specific and concrete the prompt is, the more information you give the machine to spit back a result.
Well, in that case, is there a limit to what your prompt can be?
That's a good question. I didn't try to write a story for the prompt, but I have to imagine that there's a drop off in terms of like a threshold of information. Like, what's the sweet spot?
I mean, so now you've done this, and then you mentioned like practical applications for it. So like, how did you start using it at this point?
Yeah. So immediately what came to mind for me was just something, a recency bias need. As a designer, will often think of tools like personas, which is, an archetype of a group of people to help me think about that person's needs as a user of a product or tool. So at the time, I was actually trying to make a persona for a machine learning algorithm to help me and other people understand what it does. So this whole thing was very meta. I was asking a machine to draw an image for describing another machine. So all very hard to understand, I realize. But I used Dall-E because I was really impressed with some of the output, especially when I was asking it to draw pencil sketches. And I like pencil sketches as a aesthetic for a persona image because it's not too serious, and it just conveys enough meaning to sort of understand what this persona is all about. So in this particular case, I gave Dall-E the prompt, a pencil sketch of a robot applying labels to a conveyor belt of messages. So this ML that I was trying to create a persona for takes in messages and uses natural language processing to apply categories and topics to it. So I wanted to see what would Dall-E, another ML algorithm, use or cook up with this prompt. So here's what it came up with. And I was blown away. I was so amazed by this output. This one, starting with the left, the conveyor belt is there. You can see the robot, kind of like standing next to the conveyor belt, like it's sort of tinkering with these things as they pass through. I like this sort of gibberish here that kind of looks like Eastern European, maybe a little bit, but intended to be, I'm sure, completely unintelligible. This one is the one we ended up running with. I mean, just like nailed the robot applying labels to the messages as they come through. I even love this sort of like kind of like action-y sort of, I don't know what you call this. They're in cartoons a lot when there's like an action being applied to something or movement being conveyed here, which is pretty cool. Like the robot furiously scribbling away as these messages come through. And then this one also just like crushed the whole like notion of like all these messages coming in and the robot doing things to them. And then this final one here also pretty on the nose. But this just gives you a sense of the type of output that you can expect. And all these, again, just like the other images above, took a matter of less than a minute or so to create.
Yeah, totally. It's also interesting to, I guess, like this is what the consciousness of what a robot looks like, right? I wonder how sort of abstract concepts will evolve as you have more and more people or like more systems distilling what a robot is, right? I feel like then the definition or like the abstraction or the essence of a concept becomes more and more similar, because you might have systems generating more images because it's so easy to generate.
Yeah, you're giving the whole system more fodder from which to create more images. Also very meta to think about.
Right. And then like I was like, oh, these are the accepted results for what a robot looks like. And then how do you, I guess that's a separate ML problem of like make sure you have range and variation besides what gets refed into the system.
That is interesting because as far as I know, and again, I don't feign to, be an expert in how these algorithms are trained and improved upon, but I do know as enough to know that a lot of ML does require training to improve. And interestingly, in my experience using all three of these tools, I don't recall if there was any kind of human in the loop interaction where like you select a winner. It really kind of felt like you submit a prompt to the machine does its best, and that's kind of the end of the story. You can, I think in all three of them, you can refine an output. So you could say like, if I like this one the best, this one here, I can select this one and say, create 4 more using this one as a template and, further refine the output. But there isn't a notion of like, yes, this one's right and these other ones are incorrect.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the way they could infer that is if how many other follow-up prompts you use that are very similar to your initial prompt. It's like searches, right? Like searching assumptions. Like if you search and refine your search, it probably assumes that you didn't find anything on your first few attempts.
Yeah, it'd be interesting too to learn a little bit more about each of them and if they have different approaches to learning and growing based off of behaviors like that. Whatever they are, it seems like Midjourney, read me like a book, understanding that I really wanted to combine a pigeon and a rat together.
Yeah, totally. And like looking at the 2 different prompts, right? Like rat, pigeon, rat, and then your second prompt is way more descriptive. It's also describing a scene, right? Versus the first one is sort of like just describing this like concept, like a merge of 2 objects into something.
Totally. And I felt like there was a theme there. You kind of get the sense for as you play with these and feed them more and more prompts, a little bit more of an idea of what to expect. So it's kind of like getting to know someone a little bit and feeding some prompts in and then getting a different result back. Like, oh, okay, this one prefers a little bit more context here and specificity to define the scene around it. And, oh, this one was a little bit maybe too many prompts, or it like got 5 out of 7 of them. So there's a little bit of a back and forth kind of dialogue, learning how to communicate with each of these.
Yeah. I imagine like there's probably like a few different layers of instruction that you need to give it. One, which is like I guess it's like constructing a sentence, right? Which you need to give it like the subject or sort of like some sort of noun, the verb, right? Like what's the action that's happening, the scenery, like the environment that they're in, and then the last thing, because these are images, you probably need to give them like a sort of style in order to specify what you want. Otherwise, it's going to be like dealer's choice, right? The system is going to guess and pick a style that you might not want.
Totally. And it looks like to that effect, like Dall-E kind of assumed that I wanted a photorealistic style for all of these, because I didn't specify, to your point, like what style of output do I want. But when I made that clear in this one down below, it just crushed it. It's like, oh yeah, it knows what a pencil sketch is, and it is more than happy to give me that output style.
Yeah, totally. Did you have any other use cases in mind? Like, have you tried or thought about any other use cases besides personas?
I've thought about things like, album art, because it can be just really fun and whimsical. And if you don't give you can give it a prompt like pigeon rat or, just 2 words and see what it comes up with. And sometimes the result is pretty hilarious. And sometimes it's like spot on. But, interesting to think about creating art with something like this, and having the machine do a lot of this creative work on your behalf. In other cases, I think that it could be interesting to use as kind of an inspiration generator. So, if I wanted to sort of riff on this concept of a pigeon rat, it's interesting to have a machine like serve up some options stylistically that I could choose from and then refine myself and add a little bit of a human touch to it.
Yeah, I think it kind of changes the role a little bit of like what it means to be creating, right? Because it shifts from like the actual creation as a starting point to being able to be a instructor or editor or curator, and then reacting to what the system comes back with, right?
Totally. Yeah. It's interesting. I think I think it's a powerful tool already. Some more than others, like Midjourney and Dall-E, just in the number of options that it gives you. Really great for early ideation and generation. Like I could imagine if I was trying to draw an illustration for a particular concept, I could see totally coming to one of these first and saying, "Oh, what does the machine, spit out?" It's just an early thought, and is that anywhere in the ballpark of what I would do on my, for the same prompt. And if it's close, I might like use compositionally some of the elements from it and then put that into my own idea afterwards.
It's really interesting. I have some credits. I think I'm going to try a bunch of prompts. I wish there was like a way to because each try is a credit, I feel like then like I hesitate to try too many things, which is I feel like I want like an unlimited credit system for a bit, just to like try stuff out and iterate and really like learn the system.
Yes. I think Dall-E might have been the one, or maybe it was Midjourney. They're all actually pretty upfront about how many credits you had. Just some are more forward with like how many credits you have remaining as you're iterating through some of this output. And I think it was Dall-E that I kind of like got into this flow state of like riffing on some of these persona style images down here, and was amazed with the output. But then I just remember that like, you're done, your trial is over, and feeling really disappointed. So I definitely
totally.
see, adding, you can add credits on demand too. So I could see, spending a couple bucks to get a few credits for a particular project and seeing if the output is anywhere in the ballpark and running with that. But yeah, it's a wild world. Definitely early innings, I'm sure, for technologies like this, and already sort of wild to see how successful they can be with some of the output.
Yeah, I think like it brings up a lot of questions. I know like already people are asking about what it means for like artists and creatives, right? That normally do this for a living. I think there's like implications of what it means for people that never felt like they were creative, right? Because now you're not limited by your ability to execute on an idea. You're just more or less limited by your ability to like create a prompt, imagine something, and be specific enough with your instructions to the system.
Totally. And it's interesting because there is kind of a different skill set involved there. I think you mentioned before, communicating to a machine or giving Google prompts. There is kind of an art to that, and some people are better than others at Googling and getting the result out that they expected from that. So I can totally see this sort of creative class emerging that is also kind of hip to how to speak to the robot to be an effective tool for them.
Yeah, it's like it's a different skill set, right? Because with human to human interaction, you want to be cognizant of how you're coming across to the other person when you're making a request or you're instructing them or you're asking for something. But in this case, the robot wants very clear, concrete instructions, which probably comes across as demanding. So I guess maybe the reminder is that talk to robots in a different way than you talk to people.
Exactly. Be direct, be candid, and specific. Although those are all great qualities, I think, in talking with people as well.
Yeah, totally.
You don't have to say thank you to any of these, however, which does feel a little rude, actually. It, took this command, gives you great output, and you're just like, I'll take that. Thank you very much. But I don't need to show gratitude to the robot.
Yeah. Yes, might have to come back and use the credits more. That's how you show gratitude, by spending.
Indeed.
Yeah. For folks that would be interested in trying this out, like what do you think, what questions do you think they would have about like how they might approach this? Do you think they should just like start with Dall-E, Midjourney?
I think all of them require no technical knowledge other than creating an account. Some of these, at the time that I tried all these, they were kind of beta walled a little bit, so that might still be the case. They might not. Might just be as simple as creating an account to some of them. I think Midjourney was the one that felt the least approachable right now. Not, again, because it was technical, just because the interface for communicating with Midjourney is done through the chat tool Discord. So you kind of have to be a little hip to, how Discord works and create an account to Discord and then, be a little bit savvy with its interface. And so when you are giving Midjourney a prompt, other people are giving Midjourney prompts in the same Discord channel. So it's a little wild. Like you give it a prompt and like 10 other people might give it a prompt ahead of you. So you have to like kind of scroll up and see the output. That felt a little bit weird. But other than that, it was just as easy as the other ones in terms of, tell the machine what you want and peruse the output and refine as needed.
I'm just imagining a stock exchange pit, a bunch of people screaming instructions and the ML model, and then the ML model is just like throwing results back at people.
That's very much what it feels like. Like a swarm of journalists around, someone that they're trying to interview all at the same time with like cameras and microphones in its face.
Yeah. Or maybe like the alternative is like trying to get a cab in New York City, right? And then someone's trying to while it's raining, someone's trying to cut in front of you. But
yes. So as long as you're cool with that, Midjourney is excellent. And as you saw in the Pigeon Rat prompt, it can be worth the wait in line with other people.
I think there's some other systems that I've heard about. There are other AI systems that return different things besides images. Like you can type in some text, beginning text, and then give you back an essay or something like that. Nice. Which we should probably try at some point.
A fodder for a future episode.
Yeah.
Well, the robots with respect to text to image technology are coming, and indeed they are already here. I am confident, just based off of testing these, that there are going to be a lot of applications for this type of technology, a lot of use cases and demand for it, and it's going to be really exciting to see what happens in the coming years with them.
That was our first episode. Thank you for watching The Robots Are Coming. Let us know via the comments what surprised you the most about the AI services we discussed. And if you've tried any of these services yourself, tell us how you're using them and how well they are or aren't working for you. Thanks again. See you next time.